Number 1.
My family has heaps of ghost stories, from having things peering through windows, being pushed onto railway tracks when alone, objects that fly across the room, broken unplugged phones that would ring and have someone talk on the line, and so on. Yet the main one I remember was when I was in primary school and my family moved into a 3-bedroom brick house while placing repairs on our other house. The bedrooms of this house were lined up in a row with built-in sliding closets, and I took the room in the middle. And for the first few weeks, it was fine. My mom was working from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., sometimes 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., so I had to get ready for school by myself. Often when the alarm went off, I snoozed in for a bit. Yet one day, I heard the closet door open and close by itself. Then the light blew out above me. I mostly slept with the lights on. I immediately got up and got ready for school while calling my mom to tell her what happened, and she said I was overreacting. Then my cousin came to stay and slept in my room, where I then had to sleep with the lights off. In the middle of the night, I felt something crawl into bed with me, and I thought it was my cousin, because if they got scared at night, they would lay in bed with someone. Yet whatever it was very cold, so I rolled over still thinking it was my cousin, to find this large shadow of like a long-haired woman, sort of like slithering into the bed. So I jumped out of the bed and switched the light on, where the thing was still there, before vanishing when my cousin sat up, and my mom came into the room to ask about the noise. My cousin fell back to sleep 2 seconds later, and my mom just said it was a dream. During one of my mom's night shifts, I slept in the living room with a cat by me, where I left the kitchen light on and the TV on without sound. I heard a tapping noise, so I sat up and saw my bedroom door handle jiggling, then the door bursting open by itself. I was too scared to go near it, so I sat there just staring into my dark room, when the door then slammed shut again. Later it did the opening and closing 2 more times through the night, while the cat was hissing. My older sister was staying over for a few nights when we had an argument, so she turned my bedroom light off, then pushed me into my room and closed the door. I then tried to turn on my light and open the door, but the door handle just spun in circles and my light would not turn on. I thought my sister was blocking the door. Then this shadowy thing started like forming beside me, outlined by the light from under the door. It took me like 40 seconds to get out, and I found my sister in the yard with my mom. Afterwards, the door handle and light were working normally again. One day my friends and I were playing hide and seek. A friend and I decided to hide in my closet when we could hear this heavy breathing like a grown man with lung cancer trying to breathe. I felt the hair on the back of my head get pulled when my friend started screaming. So we ran out, and my friend had several scratches on his back and bit of blood coming out of their mouth. In the last week that we were there, I was made to sleep in the room, where 2 more things happened. 1. I woke up to find a large hand trying to touch my face. And 2. The time I left the radio on and the TV off, went to the toilet and found the radio off, the TV on, and my bedroom door wide open. After leaving, a few years later, my mom told me she actually would see and hear her closet door open and close by itself, yet pretended not to notice. That one morning when getting ready for work, she saw a gremlin-like creature crouching in front of my bedroom door before it disappeared. She also saw a shadowy outline of a woman sitting in the hallway, but didn't want to scare me, so she never mentioned it. There was also a guy about the same age as me, who lived in the house once too. We were talking, and he said creepy stuff used to happen to him, and he remembers being alone, and someone dragging him across the floor. I'm 20 now, and if I ever have kids that comment on strange things in a house, or see something, we'll be moving. I would not ignore any strange going-ons in a place.
Number 2.
I was newly out of nursing school and just started being charge nurse on the medical surgical unit when this incident occurred. On our med-surg unit, night shift charge takes the same patient load as all the other nurses. On the first night of my weekend trio of shifts, I had assigned myself a patient that I'll call Mrs. G. Mrs. G was a morbidly obese lady with a small bowel obstruction who had refused to have an NG tube placed to help her drain her stomach. No big deal really, I guess, since she was ordered to have nothing by mouth, so no food or drink, and not having any nausea or vomiting at the time. She was as sane as you and me. Anyways, I got the creepiest feeling from her that Friday night for some reason. She said something about how she usually talks to her dead mother, which I don't think is strange at all. But like I said, she just gave me a really uneasy feeling. Fast forward to the next night. For some reason, she had changed rooms, so I didn't mind one bit to assign her to another nurse. At one point during the night, she had pressed the call button, but I couldn't understand what she said over the intercom, so I walked down to her room to see what she had asked for. She wanted some water, so I went and got her some. When I came back to the room, she told me something that I thought was awfully peculiar. I can remember exactly what she said. They had a party for me today. I asked, who did? She replies with a huge smile on her face. My friends and family, some I haven't seen in 20 years. I say, wow, they must have come from far away. Now, I know that my eyes got huge when she clarified. No, they've been dead for that long. It was the most beautiful party. It really made me wonder why a 40-something-year-old seemingly sane woman would say something like this. I got my answer about 2 hours later when a white-faced coworker walked out of Mrs. G's room and yelled that we needed to call a code. It was too late for Mrs. G. It looked like she had died at least 30 minutes before we found her. I immediately understood what she meant by her party. It must have been a going-away party.
Number 3.
I grew up hearing the same set of stories from my dad about the horrible paranormal things that happened in the house he grew up in Erling, West London. For a long time, I took these stories with a pinch of salt until a few years ago, now in my 20s. I was at a family gathering with my dad, his mom, and 7 siblings, all of which confirmed his stories as true and added their own personal accounts, which really made it all very believable. The house was a typical Victorian London terrace house, which they would have been occupying in the 70s. In the house at the time would have been my teenage dad, his younger brothers, who were twins, and his 3 older sisters in their 20s, and 2 older brothers who would visit, and his mom and dad. The most frequent occurrences was the back door opening and slamming shut in the night, with loud footsteps running up the stairs, to which my granddad would often spring out of bed to confront in the fear of an intruder, only for the footsteps to never reach the top of the stairs. My twin uncles would refuse to sleep in the room because of the breathing, but would usually be forced to, because my nan was a hearty Irish lady who didn't take any shit. They would sometimes wake up to find their beds had been completely stripped in the night. Random knocking and scraping was heard all over the house, and things would randomly fall off of the shelves, and those kind of things. Apparently my grandparents were pretty stern, and refused to properly acknowledge the things that happened at first. One night, they were all having dinner in the kitchen, and they had one of those stand-up oil heaters. I don't know what the proper name is. And apparently, it just suddenly flew from one side of the room to the other, setting the room on fire. My granddad was really hurt, trying to tackle the fire and get everyone out, and obviously the fire brigade was called. After that, all 10 of them slept in the same room. An interesting thing that happened is that my nan was putting washing out one day and started talking to the neighbor. My dad's family hadn't lived in the house very long when all the strange things started happening, hence why they hadn't just upped and left in the first sign of trouble, as moving has its complications, and it was a council house. Anyway, the family next door were Jamaican, and a lady had said to my nan that she was so worried when she found out that another white family were moving in next door, because the previous family were really horribly racist, as was a lot of London in the 70s. Apparently the lady told my nan that she had prayed to her dead mother to watch over her and her family, but now she wasn't so worried because my dad's family were good people. Probably unrelated, but still super weird. My dad's family soon moved to Wembley and lived happily ever after, but in the late 80s, when my twin uncles were all grown up, they actually returned to the house to find that it was boarded up and had obviously been unoccupied for a while. They decided to break in with the intention of smashing it up inside. Some kind of strange revenge, I guess, for the torment they went through as kids. My uncles are notoriously tough people. One of them had been in and out of prison and been a part of loads of London riots and things like that, so it's really not like them to get scared. But they both said that once they entered the house, they got past the back room, but they just couldn't go any farther, as apparently the atmosphere was so horrible, they just had to leave. Now fast forward. A few years ago, I was showing my dad the wonder that is modern technology, as he's quite old, has never touched a computer, and doesn't even know how to work a mobile phone. I was showing him Google Street View, which he thought was some kind of magic. And anyway, he asked me to put in the address of the house, and sure enough, there it was, all burned out and boarded up. I can't remember the address, but I will find it again and add it here when I can.
Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, as you may or may not know, I have been away from YouTube for quite some time now. But rest assured, I am back.
I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key. If I'd have known for just 1 second, you'd be back to bother me.
And here to celebrate my great... Alright, why the hell am I talking like this? Here to celebrate my great and triumphant return is the awe-inspiring, magnificent, wonderful, shape-shifting creation with the most cryptic avatar on all of YouTube. Yes, I am talking, of course, of LadySpook. She is my third best friend in the world, behind Jesus and Bambi. So if you haven't already, click on the link below and subscribe to her channel. And if you are ever bored enough, try staring at her avatar to decipher the true origin and meaning of that cryptic picture.
Go check it out! Go check it out!